$42,773 suicides, 16 million depressed, 256 million divorces, 3.2 million abused, and 137 million fatherless children. These are just American statistics, but each number I just gave you represents a human, and within that human, countless emotions to be worked through each and every day. The abuse becomes constant, the arguing becomes too much to handle. Life just isn't worth living anymore. Sin in the world is beaten us so badly that the once beautiful and thoughtfully crafted child of God is no longer recognizable. So tell me how? How do we control these emotions instead of letting them control us? On August 28, 1998, I was born. I began life at 2:30 p.m. And in my opinion, this was the best and the worst day of my life. You're probably wondering, how can this be the worst day of her life when she just began it? It was the best day of my life because I was brand spanking new. Perfect, some might say. But it was also the worst because it was the day God gave me over to Satan and the world to be dealt with however they pleased. I know that sounds really creepy, and you're probably like, what in the world does she mean he gave her to Satan? What I mean is, this was the day Satan was allowed to begin his chiseling process, which consisted of breaking me down and reshaping me until I no longer resembled that once perfect creation God intended. When we are born into this world, we are also born into a battleground. Some of us are wounded from day one. Satan knows how to hurt people, how to take advantage of people, and how to attempt to turn them from knowing the living God. The place Satan decided to focus on in my life was, and is, growing up without a father. As a child, I noticed things like fathers picking their children up from daycare, or seeing the pride a father has in protecting his daughter. Never had that. What I did have was one beautifully selfless mother who wanted the best life she could give me. And as a child, that's all I needed. For a while, I was perfectly content with letting her try to give that to me. But as time went on, I realized that no matter how hard my mother tried, there was still something missing. So, I tried to fill the gaping hole inside of me, and I was determined to do it by myself. Nothing worked. The hole was like a big bowl, but the bottom was made of tiny holes, allowing whatever that was poured into it to leak out. I was trying to pour as much as I could into the hole, and sometimes it looked as if the bowl would hold what was inside. But time after time, it slowly emptied, leaving nothing but anger and resentment at the bottom. I was trying so hard to do it by myself that I didn't even notice that God was standing right in front of me, screaming at me to just look up and stop desperately pouring stuff into the hole. And if only I would listen, he would take the bowl and replace it with a new one that had no holes. But I wouldn't allow him. Night after night I cried, begging him to just hear me. Couldn't he see how depraved and rotten I was inside? Couldn't he see that I wasn't fine and I needed someone to notice? He heard me all along. Then he spoke, saying, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." This verse hit home, because as I was trying so hard to fill the hole, God was constantly there reassuring me time and time again. Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Finally, I had heard him, and I slowly began to let him help me. God used two significant things in my life to help me: school and relationships. But he used one to create the other. Without Eastwood, I would never have had the chance of those relationships I needed that were vital to helping me grow instead of wither away. Before I came to Eastwood, I was angry and alone. I didn't have people in my life who really cared, and I would most certainly not be where I am today if God hadn't directed my mother towards Eastwood. I know that sounds extremely dramatic, and you've probably heard it before, but Eastwood gave me this small group of people who were exactly what I needed. These people were the glue to my bowl. I know it sounds funny, but each person I met at Eastwood filled out one of the holes. They helped me to realize that it was okay to relinquish control to God and let him work. But most importantly, they showed me that it was okay to share my hurt instead of keeping it inside. People caring just wasn't something I was accustomed to. And even today, I look around and I'm amazed at how loving and sincere the people around me are. Thank you. I'm not going to end my speech with some lie that I'm perfected and the bowl can now be filled without ever leaking out, because that just isn't true. I am so very far from being where I need to be. The Apostle Paul said, "I press on towards the upward call in Jesus Christ." We have to press on as broken people in a broken world. Some days I will try to fill the bowl myself, but other days, God finds a way to break through the barrier I have put up and command my attention. When I asked you earlier the question of how do we become in control of our emotions instead of them controlling us, I realized that the answer was nothing. There is nothing we ourselves can physically do to be in control of these emotions, because we simply cannot do it on our own. God never intended for us to try to be our own superheroes and save ourselves. What he does want is for us to come running to him, begging him to help us, because without his guidance, we are eternally damned. Eastwood students, I want to remind you specifically that you cannot do it alone. It's easy to do it on your own when hardships aren't around. But what happens when Satan starts chiseling away and you just can't feel the hold in fast enough? Doing it by yourself will become impossible. You'll be facing two choices. You can either try and find whatever you can, whether it be drugs, alcohol, sex, money, anything you think will fill the hole, and you'll begin to go on an exhausting journey of filling and refilling. Or you can look up and see God standing in front of you with his hands stretched out while he's telling you, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." I want to thank each of you who was willing to listen to God when he was telling you that a relationship needed to be made with me. Because without y'all, I don't know where I would be. Specifically, I want to start with my mom and grandma. You two have actually made life worth living. Mom, many people wouldn't have been brave enough to do what you did when you decided to raise a child on your own. None of us have been scary, but I'm so glad you did, because I don't know what I would do without you. You are so strong, and I know life hasn't always been easy for us, but we made it, and we will continue to make it, because you've put your faith in Christ day after day, and you rely on Christ to bring that overflowing joy everyone knows you have. I love you. Anyway, the best word to describe you is humble. You give and you don't receive, and you give some more. And I thank you for your wisdom you've given me throughout the years. Corey, I have never met someone who understands me quite as well as you do. Being able to sit and laugh for hours about absolutely nothing is truly special, and I pity those who don't have that in their lives. You've always been willing to listen to me and be there for me in my darkest hours, and I hope our friendship never ends. Jessica, thank you for always being the mother of me and Corey, and always thinking about the things Corey and I never do. You don't know how much you mean to me. Anna Watson, Marilee Babington, Adelaide Howard, Murray Babington, Emily Gwynn, my Bible study squad. You girls are genuine gifts from God. You bring so much joy and happiness into my day, and there will be times in your life when you're tempted to change who you are, but don't, because it's not what God intended. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Mr. and Miss Gibbons, without you, I would never have had the chance to combine two of my most favorite things, acting and singing. Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. Mr. Miller, you do care. We are friends. And I know you won't admit it, but you think I'm a people person. Drew Burton, you're like a father to me and to so many others. You've always watched out for each and every student in the youth group, and you have a way of making people feel like they're truly worth their time. Thank you. Margaret, Emily, and Brianna, the countless number of times you've carted me around and everywhere and let me stay at your house is remarkable. Thank you for the bond we share, and maybe one day we can all play basketball again together. To the rest of you who didn't get mentioned, you are the reason I am here, and it's thanks to you that I didn't lose who I was as a person, because you never let me forget how loved and cherished I am. So much of great literature we read was written by people who were balls with holes. Fitzgerald, Steinbeck, Hemingway. They didn't have answers, but they showed us what an empty life is like. I'm thankful for God's book, which not only explains man's hopeless condition, but it also gives our answer to salvation. Hear God saying what he has said to me. I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you. Thank you.